Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. And I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about the shadow. I'm just literally coming out of what has been 3 days in deep, dark shadow work again. And it's very difficult. This awakening process is not easy stuff. That's why I call us warriors, because those of us that are willing to do the work and go into the shadowy depths and face the stuff, it's hard going. It's not an easy process. So I'm coming back into myself now, which is a very good feeling. I'm not fully grounded by no means, but in the air of authenticity, I wanted to come on and talk to you while things were still very fresh. So I wanted to just go through the process of what the last 3 days has been like for me so that you get a little bit of an idea of what you can anticipate if you're just starting down this spiritual path, or give you a little bit of a reassurance if you've been on this path for a while and have been experiencing some of these things, that this is normal as you can call it, because none of this feels by no means normal, and none of this feels in any way, shape, or form anything less than crazy at times. So what happened was 2 days ago, I received an email that really triggered me from my lawyer. I got sucked in to that trigger into a relatively dark place, and I was feeling panic, I was feeling fear, I was feeling nervousness, and it's like being sucked into a vortex of another dimension almost, where I'm used to, at this stage of the game, I've been through this process enough times now to understand that what was happening to me. And for me, that has experienced a lot of trauma, and probably the same for you if you've experienced trauma, is when we get triggered, it's like a doorbell to an aspect or a time period. It's like a door opening. So it's kind of reminding me right now of that movie Monsters, Inc. with all the different doors, and it would lead you to different places. And so depending on what the trigger is, it's like opening a door to a past version of yourself. And the past version of itself that it was opening a door to was the 2.5-year-old version of me when I was in foster care. And a lot of that time period, of course, being age 2.5, is difficult to recall from any semblance of conscious awareness, but emotional awareness, the emotional response, is what brings you through that door into that time period. And so I call it returning to child mind almost, when you're in a flashback and it's like you again are that 2.5-year-old, but you're in an adult body. And what accompanies me when I go through these processes is I can often identify where the Kundalini energy is, like physically in my body. And it was very much in my low back region. My lower 3 vertebrae were in exceptional pain. I was doing a lot of yin yoga to try to shift and release some of the tension in those lower vertebrae. I was also doing working on my acupressure mat, lying on this for an hour. I was also using my massage gun. I love this gun. Very useful tool if you develop aches and pains on the process of releasing, as well as doing breath work to try to shift the energy and move the energy along. And I was doing everything I could to try to shift it, because the pain that I was in was excruciating in my low back. And so that's why I knew it was very much root chakra issues that I was worried about. And in my 2.5-year-old mind, I knew that I couldn't do things like get my own apartment and pay my own rent and escape from the situation that I was in. So it felt very trapped and so being in that mind in the present day, your mind tries to translate it to, oh no, how am I going to survive? How am I going to get through? How am I going to manage? And I can't do anything because you're in child mind. So it's like a dizziness comes along with this process of going in through to these places of trauma, where what you're doing is you're actually doing soul retrieval. You're going and collecting fractured aspects of yourself that have been fractured off. If you could imagine like a glass breaking and sending off shards of glass in every single direction, and each one of those shards of glass represents a different traumatic moment where a piece of you got fractured off. And so through this process for the last 2.5 years, I've been collecting all those little pieces. And so when I say I'm going into doing the shadow work and inner child work, it's like you have a trigger and you open the door and you're off on a journey to find that fractured aspect of self. And sometimes it's been a 2.5-year-old version of me. Sometimes it's been an adult version of me. Sometimes it's been at any stage of my life where there has been traumatic moments of bullying or being spanked or being shouted at, being raged at, being severely punished, being locked in my room for extended periods of time in isolation, going through adoption. Even as far back, there have been memories that have bubbled to the surface, because as you're going through this awakening process, this is the whole thing, is all these memories, all these wounds that you carry with you that are lodged in your body are coming to be cleared out, to be released so that you can become enlightened. You're not carrying with you these heavy, dense energies anymore. And it doesn't need to just be this life. It can be previous lifetimes that you're also retrieving wounded aspects of self. And so that's even more overwhelming, because you're like, what is even happening? Are these memories even real? And last spring, I was going through exceptionally dark period of time, and some of the memories that were surfacing were beyond anything that I consciously was aware of. Very locked up memories, very brutal situation. And I don't talk about that in detail, one, because I don't have verification other than the experience of reliving it when it came and when it surfaced. And so oftentimes when you're going through these emotional flashbacks or memories of earlier wounds, it comes with a lot of tears, a lot of emotions, but a lot of physical shaking and physical releases, as well as pain, physical pain that you may identify in your body in any number of places, depending on where that trauma is stored. So for the last 2 days, I've been deep in shadow, basically trapped in my bedroom, unable to eat, facing and trying to process through, because it's a very confusing process when you're going through it and you don't understand fully what's happening to you, which is why it's always useful to have, if you have a couple of almost accountability partners or people that you can turn to. And I have a good few of these people that have helped me along my own spiritual awakening path, that I can get in touch with and say, listen, I feel insane right now. What's happening to me? And they'll be like, it's okay. You're going through ego death. And that's what it is your ego has tried to hold in place these memories. That's part of its job. And it begins to disintegrate as you are reintegrating your lost aspects of self, your inner child wounds. And we have many, many inner child wounds. I don't view it as having a single solitary child. I see it as we have, as I said, these fractured aspects of ourselves. So we could have, depending on your upbringing, we could have a lot of wounds that we need to bring back into wholeness. And so as I was doing the work and seeing, I have a photograph that I was connecting to of that earlier time period of me, and able to do what listen to what she needed. And she was terrified. She was absolutely in terror, as you would be at age 2.5, and be pulled out of your connection. We need a primary caregiver as humans, and to be given away at adoption and spend a period of time in foster care without having a parental figure to connect with is a deep, profound abandonment wound that was lodged very much in my root chakra there, that I've carried with me my whole life. What she needed through this process is I made some affirmation tapes, very soothing, of how a mother would talk to a child of that age, how I would have talked to my child at that age, in soothing and comforting and caring words. Everything's going to be okay. I'm here for you. I love you. It's okay. You're safe. It's okay. I've got you. I'm protecting you. I won't let anything happen to you. Nobody can hurt you anymore. And I made a recording of myself with some just nice chant music background. And I played that on repeat all night long for 2 solid nights, trying to coax and convince this aspect of self that she was in fact safe. Because when you're going through this process, you have to understand this aspect of yourself has been locked away in this, behind this door, in this timelessness, for what has for her felt like an eternity. So it takes a little bit of time to gently soothe that inner child into trusting you, so that you can go and pick her up and hold her and bring her back into self. And so I always visualize me holding those little wounded children and in a rocking chair and giving them whatever they needed. And she needed to climb into somebody's lap and have her head stroked and just be rocked and soothed for a period of time. So literally that's what I was doing. It is self-soothing and stroking and relaxing at the same time as doing healing practices the best that I could to help the energy move along. And I could feel when the energy shifted out of the root and it slowly made its way up into my abdomen, where I was having aches and pains in my abdomen, and which is why I couldn't eat. So often you'll go through phases of fasting. I was drinking still lots of water, but you'll go through phases of fasting on this journey, because as you're processing emotions, your body can't do 2 things at once. And the energy that's being, the Kundalini energy that's being moved through you, you want it to have as clear get out of the way as possible, but you're going to slow things down if you go into heavy eating. So don't worry too much is what I'm saying, is if you go through phases where your appetite goes up and then goes down. And I always know that I'm coming out of it when all of a sudden my appetite returns and I'm downstairs and I'm consuming as much food as I can get into me, because, you've gone 24 hours or whatever without food. Although I always force myself to have a nutritional smoothie, and that smoothie has kept me alive. While I'm in the weeds and in the darkest of dark, I make sure I at least have a smoothie per day. So it keeps me have nutrition, which is Vega 1, all nutrition, protein powder, chia, flaxseed, berries, coconut butter, and sometimes I'll throw an avocado in there just to get some extra fat happening. There has been long stretches on this awakening path where that's all I was able to consume in this last year, where I've been going through the darkest of the dark. This last year has been the year of the fear and the year of the terror, and all the experiences that I had as a child that were terrifying, coming and resurfacing, and memories that I can't share. I can't share them because they're too graphic and they're too disturbing. Appetite, yes. Don't be overly alarmed that when you go through this awakening process, your appetite will go up, down, and it's always a good sign to me when I get my appetite back and I'm like, oh, good, I can eat again. That means I'm coming out the other side. It's also a good sign that you can track the energy, because the energy, as I said, moved its way from the root up into the solar plexus, and then into the heart region, where I was, again, having really tight chest pains, and like stayed there for about an hour or two, and then it moved its way up into the head, and I was dizzy. I had a headache and tightness, and it's still a little bit tight, like a band around the top of my crown. But for the most part, it's clearing itself out, because I can have a conversation with you in a relatively logical manner. I want to share this stuff with you because it would be very scary and confusing to somebody to not know what the hell is happening to them, because it's even scary and confusing to me, even though I've been through it multiple times and I'm still going through it. Understanding that being confused, am I going crazy? Am I dying? All of these thoughts kind of come up and bubble to the surface while you're going through this. Ego death is what's happening, ultimately, because ego is losing control and your identity is losing as these wounds surface. You no longer are holding on to them as part of your identity. You can integrate them into your wholeness. And so in so doing, you can let go of the coping mechanisms that held them at bay. You can let go of the pain, and you can let go of the deep-rooted suffering that you carry with you. And all of that has, fed ego and kept ego intact. So ego death is a strange experience, and depending on your perspective, I suppose it could be called many things. It can be called ego death. It could be called, which the ego is not actually dying. I mean, it's disintegrating, but it's not dying, but it might feel like you're dying for sure. And the confusion is unreal through this process. So if you are going through some really dark stuff and struggling with ego death, with soul retrieval, with inner child wounds, with shadow work, and you're just completely and utterly lost, my one piece of advice to you through this is be as much as you can in the observer. Remind yourself and watch yourself and say to yourself, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not these emotions. I'm just watching. This is a process of a spiritual awakening. This is normal process of spiritual awakening. Everything is going to be all right. And even make a little recording for yourself saying over and over again, everything is going to be all right. This too shall pass, this too shall pass, and wait it out, because it does never last for too many days. It's on average for me, usually about 3 days, and then it dissipates and it clears, and I come back to feeling, okay, I got through that again. And it takes a little bit of time to reorient yourself with this new, lighter way of being. Other tools to use are to set a timer when you're in the throes of the deepest of emotions, because experience and expressing the emotions is exceptionally difficult. So saying to yourself, I'm going to let myself cry for the next 20 minutes and just allow myself to emote, puts an end time on it so that it doesn't feel like eternity. Another tool that I think is very useful is playing affirmations. One affirmations CD that I really enjoy using is the I'm Safe 8-hour affirmations that's available on YouTube, and it's just very soothing. You want to soothe and comfort and soothe and comfort and soothe and love the fuck out of yourself while you're going through these process, because it is dark work. It is warrior work. If you need help through any of these types of processes and you want to book a one-on-one Zoom call, The way to do that is in the description below. Please send off an email and let me know that that's what you're wanting. And the link for donation is also in the description below. Reasonable donations, please. And I want to just shout out and say thank you to everybody who's supporting me on this journey, because seriously, every like, every share, every comment, every you can do it that I get really helps propel me on this journey. And awakening is not easy. It's my heart goes out to everybody. My love goes out to everybody who's also in the weeds and who's struggling to get through some of these harsher and darker times. And if you need help, please don't suffer in silence. The more we connect as a community, and I have the skill set to be able to offer some insight and maybe some tools to assist you to get through some of the blocks that you may be experiencing. And I want to help everybody as much as I possibly can through their awakening, because it gives all this meaning to me. So with that said, I'm going to love and leave you and wish you all the very, very best. And I'm sending out so much love. Peace out.